Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm John Cummins, and joining me today is, as usual, the third strongest co-host, Sam Wagers.
Hello.
And we've got special guest Liam Davenport with us this week. He is from the RetroGroove podcast on our small little cohort of podcasts that we have. So say hi to him.
Hey guys, excited to be here.
And today we'll be talking about the next Retro Rewind game, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which we're all pretty excited about, and questions from the community. RetroLogic isn't just a podcast, it's a retro game store. Visit retrologic.games to check out our growing inventory of clean, tested, and 100% authentic retro games. And now merch. I think we mentioned last week that the Sega Genesis controller style magnets are now in stock in the merch store. Mm-hmm. And I think that Dana's working on some stickers for you guys too, right?
He is, yeah. There's a cool RetroGroove sticker that should be coming out soon, and I got my RetroLogic Genesis magnet in the mail, and it's stuck on my car nicely. And I was a little nervous that it might not be strong enough, but I've been driving it for a week, and it's still there. Nobody swiped it, so that's cool.
Yeah, they're pretty flat, so I can only imagine that they'll probably hold on pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that some kid's going to see it and peel it right off, but for now, it's still there.
As long as that kid becomes a
member
of our Discord and listens to our podcast, it's free.
Yeah, you should just. That's a great idea. Like I should just buy like 15 of these magnets and just stick them all over my car and see if somebody will take one off.
Or stick them on other people's cars. Yeah,
they are. Start sticking them on everyone else's cars.
Go to your local retro game store and everyone in the parking lot gets a magnet on their car. Viral marketing, guys.
Yes, that's how we do it. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to get right to the icebreaker for today, and we're going to talk about what we bought and what we played. And since Liam is the guest, he can go first.
Cool. Bought a fair amount, although I don't have the window of a week. I tried to hold firm to it. Was trying to remember when I picked these things up. But I made it out to a game store that I haven't been to in a while. It was like, 35-40 minutes from my house, so it's a little bit of a hike. And they used to only take cash, and so you wander into a store like that. The prices are all off price charting these days in most of the stores by me, and so they all kind of fluctuate. And so if I didn't walk in there with $100-200 in my pocket, which I never carry cash, then I'd have to scramble, run down to an ATM or something. But they've joined the current century, and they now take credit cards, and so I picked up a couple things there. I think you guys had been talking about the Mario vs. DK series, which I had kind of tinkered with a little bit in the past. And they had the 2 DS games there for a decent price, so I snagged those. And then, I don't know, we talked about before, like I try to go in with a list of things that, like, I got a hit list of things that I'm hunting for, because otherwise my mind just goes blank. Just like record stores, I walk in there and I just don't even know what I'm looking for anymore. And I try to put like a current price next to them too. And, they had Megaman and base for the GBA for like $20, which I think is a fair price. I think it goes for like 25 or something now, but I just haven't been able to find a decent copy of it. Haven't popped it in yet, but looking forward to messing around, because I always heard good things about that game.
As Mega Man games go, you could do a lot better.
Could I?
Just leave it at that. Yeah.
I like the Zero series a lot. And so those, my GBA Mega Man games were always the Zero games. And I skipped the base one, but figured give it a go.
I think it's important to remember, too, that's a remake of a Super Nintendo game that didn't release outside Japan. And as such, it does not benefit from being forced into a smaller screen. So that's a lot of its issues come from having to make blind jumps because they can't show you where you're jumping.
But is it not in the X or the regular series? It's a one-off?
It's I think it does have a canonical place in the timeline, like between 7 and 8 in the classic series. I mean, base is around, so it has to be after 7.
Yeah.
So in Japan, is base still base? Or is
No, he's Forte. The Japanese title
Okay.
is Rockman and Forte.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
It's pretty cool. And then I've got this kind of moral gate that I need to clear if I'm going to play a ROM, which is I need some form of a physical copy. It doesn't need to fully line up. And so I wanted to join everybody in playing Chrono Trigger, but I had for years a DS copy that I had bought and I never tested. Always test your games. I popped it in like 3 years ago, and I had it for about 2 years at that point. And I got to this point early on in the game where you jump through the portal, and the portal sequence just kept going and going and going. And I remember sitting on the train and like set it down, and I responded to some emails and looked back, and it was still going. And so I looked it up, and I guess there was like some kind of bootleg protection that Square Enix built into that game, where if you hacked it and made a repro, that it would lock the game on you. So I have full box, like it seems like a legit box art and everything for Chrono Trigger DS, but the cart obviously is not authentic. So I figured I'd pull the ROM for it. I have it on my SNES Classic, but like I don't like playing a ROM unless I have an actual copy. And the copies from Japan, complete in box, were like $30 plus shipping, and shipping was $10. So it's beautiful box art, and I know that I dig the game. Yeah, so I figured I've already got a couple Super Famicom games in box, and so I stuck that one on top of there. Saw behind the counter at a game store the Tales of Symphonia sequel for the Wii, which had mixed reviews, but it was $15, and so I just said toss that into my purchase. And then I grabbed this kind of stuff that I think everybody else was playing this week: Tony Hawk and Mario Golf. And then John, I think you and I were exchanging notes that Balan Wonder World has dipped down in retail to $29.99, and so I was like, all right, yeah, I'll grab it. I'll keep that sealed.
Yeah, I didn't have that in my list, but I caught a random deal on Best Buy, I think, or Target or somewhere, and I ended up getting it for $20. Like they had
That's
like
great.
a $10 off deal on it. So yeah, I bought it with the same idea that I'm just gonna hold on to it for a while. Like I don't have any real intentions on playing it anytime soon.
Yeah,
Maybe if they do something to it.
Yeah, I think that we'll all be able to get a loose copy at some point of that for a couple bucks at the right time.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting on that. I still have my Devil's Third that I've kind of thought about selling. That's like upwards of 400 now sealed, and so now I'm kind of chasing that high of like, okay, well this could be the next Devil's Third for Switch. Yeah. Awesome. And then as for playing, I just finished up. Chris HL had challenged me a little while back to play Mario RPG for the SNES. I played a ton of Paper Mario games, but I started at Thousand Year Door and went forward from there. So I had never played the first two, Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG. And I'd started playing Paper Mario on my Wii U, and then Chris challenged me for the Super Nintendo. So just finished that up. Great game. And now I'm about halfway through Paper Mario, so I'm going to dig into that a little bit more. Lots of RPGs if I'm going to pick up Chrono Trigger alongside all of that.
Yeah, Paper Mario plays really great on the Wii U as well. I think I played through the first 2 chapters on it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great... I mean, the Virtual Console, we've said it a bunch of times. You guys always talk about it. The Virtual Console kind of situation on the Wii U is just top-notch. Top-notch.
Yeah, definitely grab the newer console stuff that you can on there, like N64 and up.
DS, yeah.
The NES and Super Nintendo is a little bit wonky on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones are really top notch, so for sure.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Sam, I'll let you go next. I'll go last.
Well, the only thing I bought was Mario Golf Super Rush. I can't buy new games every week. Especially after E3, knowing that I have brand new stuff that I am intending to buy.
Too much brand new stuff.
And past a certain point, already realizing that I have a lot of stuff I want to play and don't have time to.
Did you play a bunch of Mario Golf back in the day?
No, Mario Golf is one that I never owned, never had much experience with outside of the occasional, playing at a friend's house. Mm-hmm. Tennis is one I had. Sluggers is one I had, but golf was just like, I don't know. I just never cared about golf, so I was like, why would I want a golf game? Golf is
so did you get this because of the community?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think just knowing that the other Mario sports games have been really fun for me. So, the reason I had, those other ones is those are sports I have some interest in, like actually playing. So, like, I, know the rules of tennis. I know the rules of baseball. Golf was just something I, didn't think of. I do play a lot of disc golf these days, but that's a little different.
Just a little bit.
But yeah, I think especially having it be a game that I can actually play with other people, and I actually got a chance to do some of that over the weekend. Our friend Andros had a stream where he was playing Mario Golf with some people, so I hopped onto that. Did the speed golf, did the battle golf. I do think battle golf is really fun. Speed golf, I'm a little mixed on right now, and I think a lot of it is because they give you like a pared down version of it for the story mode to get you used to it. But it's, I don't know, ironically it feels slower to me because it's like, oh, now I have to hit my ball and run after it instead of just hitting my ball and seeing where it lands and then hitting it again. It actually takes longer to do the speed golf thing, but
it does. Have you played through the story mode yet?
I have been. I'm in the dreaded cross-country golf section.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I didn't hate it as much as some people, but those cliffs are rough, is the thing.
They are.
It's very difficult to hit it over them, and after failing one time on the 6-hole version, because they give you a lot of strokes, it's just like if you bounce it off a cliff, you roll to the bottom, and then you almost have to back up. You have to waste like 2 strokes just getting another attempt at it. But yeah, I think it's more just about like planning out your path from the beginning.
Yes.
Because the second time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to hit it up to the top of the cliffs. I'm going to get all the high elevation holes first, and then I'm going to work my way back down. And then it wasn't too bad.
So, yeah, it took me 4 tries, I think, to do that one. I tried the first time just not, just attacking it head on and not knowing where the holes were at, and just kind of not really picking my holes wisely, just going to the next one that pointed me to. And then I started mapping them out, and I tried your logic where I started going for the higher elevation holes, and I just got stuck where I could not get enough travel from the wind gusts to get my ball up high enough. So after trying that like another 2 times, I went back, I let it go all the way through without restarting, and it reset, and it gave me different holes. So I actually got like an easier set of holes that weren't higher elevation. They were all just like going through these gusty clouds guys instead, which made it a lot easier. I went through it and I still had like 10 strokes left after getting all 6. So I mentioned on Discord that if you, on the Nintendo Dads Discord, if you go, let it roll through and lose and go back in, I think the holes are randomized based on, going in. But yeah, I struggled. Mario Golf, I love Mario Golf, but it doesn't love me, and I'm not really great at it, the technical side of golf. Mm-hmm. I'm not a golfer by any means. I don't know. I just have fun with it. But continue, Sam. Didn't mean to derail you.
Yeah. So as for retro stuff, I'd been playing more Advance Wars Dual Strike. I did not play any more Metroid Samus Returns because every time I pick up my 3DS, I have to play more Advance Wars Dual Strike. There's just something in me that's what happens. Buy another
DS.
Well, I have my DS Lite, but it's just one of those. Yeah, I am very hyped for Advance Wars. But I also got back to Terra Enigma on the Super Nintendo, which is fantastic. It kind of actually feels like I got into the meat of the game now. So the first objective is to visit these 5 towers in the underworld, which is where you start. The whole like plot of the game is you are actually trying to revive the planet. The planet is basically dead. There's like an underworld inside it where the last of humanity is living. And your character Ark does something, opens a door he shouldn't have, and freezes his whole town. But in the course of saving them, he also starts to revive the whole planet, basically. And by visiting these towers and, you know, activating these things inside them, you can raise the continents out of the ocean. So I did that, and then I got to go to the overworld, which has continents now, but is completely barren of life. So that's like the first like true dungeon of the game, because the towers are very small. Like each one takes like maybe 10 minutes tops to play through. But there's this like dead tree you have to go around, and it feels more like a full-on dungeon in a Zelda type sense, where like there's paths that are closed to you, and then you find an item that lets you cross water that you couldn't cross before, and then you go there, and then you have to find this other item to make you immune to the poison gas so you can fight the boss. But I did that, and now Earth has plants. No animals yet, but we have plants.
Look at you.
Yeah.
So.
It's like completing the first 3 mini dungeons in the traditional Zelda style game to get to the harder dungeons that come afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a fantastic game. Again, that is one that's PAL and Asia only. But since it is PAL, if you have a way to play PAL Super Nintendo games, there is an English version. It's just never released in North America.
I'll have to pick this one up at some point.
Yeah, and more Earthbound. Of course, Mario Golf. More Earthbound. I have been playing off-stream as well as on-stream to try to get that 1 in 128 chance drop of a Sword of Kings, and I finally got it after about an hour and a half of additional fighting lots and lots of Starman Supers off-stream, which is about as long as I did on-stream, too. Would have been nice to get it while everybody was there cheering me on, but I did not want to potentially spend the entirety of next stream doing the same thing, so I went ahead and took care of that off-stream. It's something I always try to do now. I don't know why. Because it's I usually hate grinding, but because it's Earthbound, it gets a pass.
So it's 3 hours it took you to get it?
Yeah.
So what's the quickest time you've ever rolled it?
Probably about 2 hours or so. Now, there's another rare item, the Gutsy Bat, which I got from the very first enemy that can drop it. Same drop chance, 1 in 128. The last time I played through Earthbound. It's an enemy in the very last area of the game. I got it from the very first one of those enemies I fought. It was actually going to be... It was actually right in front of the entrance to the final boss, too. So at that point, I was like, oh man, you're kidding me? I got the Gutsy Bat now? Really? So then I had to walk back so that I could save, because I'm not going to... Because that's a point of no return. You fight the final boss, you can't save after that. So I'm like, I want this on my save file. Now I got to walk back to the save point.
Sounds like a gift.
I did.
They just
that
wanted
save
you to have
file's
it.
still on there.
Yeah.
So that save file, I have the Sword of Kings and the Gutsy Bat. I don't think I can ever go for like the full set of legendary equipment though, because there's a couple other items like that's the only way to get them.
Crazy.
Yeah, I also did have a chance to fire up the Contra collection on Switch. I played the arcade version of the first Contra. Didn't make it very far. I think I got through the first base and the first like boss at the end of the base. I don't actually know how different the arcade version is from the NES version. I've played almost no Contra in my life, so this is me trying to fix that.
I've played no arcade Contra that I remember, maybe just a little bit when I was a kid. Most of mine is console Contra, so I couldn't tell you the exact differences. I'm sure there is some, because the arcade version, I'm sure, was made to eat coins.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the NES one's a breeze, but
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So, I have picked up a few things. I grabbed the Lost Vikings on Game Boy Advance. Grabbed the Ice Climber, Excite Bike, and Bomberman. These are all GBA Classic Series, NES Classic Series versions of the game. I went into the local and they just had them in their jumbled up random box of GBA games. I usually look through there every once in a while to see if anything changes. And those three were in there, and they're usually like $5 when they're in that box. So
Great.
I was like, I'll take those. Today I got a really random pickup for Metroid Prime on the GameCube. I was at the local, and I seen it, and this is the first place I go to when I go in the local now, because GameCube games, like, the section has gone down to like one shelf. Like, there's usually like 15 games. Half of them are Madden, the other half are usually hockey games or singing games, stuff that nobody wants. And so that's usually the first place I look, and stuff like this usually sticks out like right away because I notice it. So they had a version of Metroid Prime that also included the Prime 2 bonus disc that had the preview for Prime 2 on it. And at this store, they have anything that's over a certain price, they keep all the discs behind the counter. Mm-hmm. So I grab the case, I go up there. It's the only thing that, getting in, getting out. And go to buy it, and she pulls the discs out, and there's 3 discs instead of 2. So I told her, I said, look, this should only have 2 discs. Like, she just have the game and the bonus disc. And she pulls them out, lays them out on the counter, and she's like, well, these all 3 came in when they traded the game in. We don't have another case for the other one, so you get it. It comes with it. So I look at it, and it's Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, the complete game, also.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I tried. I didn't take this game. I let them know.
You offered it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get all 3 of them and spent $25.
Yeah, especially because I think the loose price on 2 now is like $40 or something like that.
Yeah, $38 on price charting.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because this is a chain game store, and I find it all the time. Like, there's multiple versions of something, they only price it as the original version.
Yeah.
So like Metroid Prime, the original copy only goes for like $25 to $30 complete in box. If it's the version that has the bonus discs for 2, it's a $50 game in box. But they priced it at the $25 for the regular copy. And then it was just icing on the cake to get the second game even loose, just in the box. So that was a pretty good haul today on that. And since I just recently got a PS2, which I've never had. And I want to mention this on here. I bought one from Shannon, Spider Shan, to fix. And I tried a handful of things, and I couldn't get it to power up. So I ended up just buying another PS2, and I'm going to keep that one for parts later on down the road. Because these things are notorious. Like, I know that you said the last time you used it.
The original or the Slim?
The original.
Heard the Slim is a little more durable.
Reliable.
Yeah.
But he said the last time he played it, the disk drive worked. So I'll take his word for that, and I'll hold on to it. And if my disk drive goes out, I'll swap them out. Should be good. But so I've been slowly trying to pick up a few PS2 RPGs that are only available there. And I picked up Dark Cloud. It's one of the cheaper ones.
It's like the only PS2 game Dan has anything good to say about.
Yeah. Yep. So I picked up Dark Cloud, and I think I picked up something else on there. I was trying to remember. I got Metal Arms for the PS2 because it's about $12 to $15 cheaper than the GameCube version.
Well, and
which isn't that expensive.
It's a good
either.
time to have a PS2 because for all those multi-platform games, they're cheaper on PS2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got the PS2 off Mercari. I just put a random offer in on one, and they accepted. And I was like, all right, I'll do this. Whatever. So yeah, now I'm getting to build up my PS2 collection. I never owned one. I played one quite a few times at a friend's house, mostly Grand Theft Auto, and he was big into racing games and stuff too, so I played a lot of that. So now I'm getting my RPG fix going through the PS2. Gonna pick up some games.
I'd had my eye on Code Veronica. It was a game that I never got a chance to go back to. I tried it when I was a kid, like the one Resident Evil game that I just didn't really put a whole lot of time in before 4. And now on GameCube, like I don't have a PS2. On GameCube, that's a $100 game, like easy. I think it's beyond that. And I think the PS2 version is like $10 or something. Yeah, like I've seen it in the store for $10.
That does confuse me because like more people have
they just
PS2s.
Well, yeah, but they sold way more copies on PS2.
Is there anything actually that special about the GameCube version?
The GameCube one? No, it's just that I'm sure it just didn't sell. Yeah,
it's low volumes.
All the Resident Evils 2, 3, and Code Veronica on GameCube, just the prices are crazy.
I mean, to put it perspective to it, the PS2 sold 6 times more consoles than the GameCube did.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually one of a little the more best-selling consoles, period. And the GameCube
it's the best-selling console of all time, and the GameCube is the second worst Nintendo home console of all time. So yeah, so your copies of games, PS2 shelves in retro stores are just filled. They're lined. Yeah. There's so many games, and like I said, you go any stores nowadays, you go look at the GameCube section, and it's usually a pile of sports games that they're still selling for $6 or $7, even though they're not that valuable. But it's just because people are buying them for the cases now. They're being scavenged out. So they've even raised the prices on those now. But yeah, it's a sad state of affairs for the if you're trying to buy GameCube right now, you're probably out of luck.
Well, speaking of prices, let's play some Prices Retro.
Prices Retro is our favorite game on RetroLogic, and right now our only game, but it's awesome nonetheless. Just to give out a quick set of rules of how this works, which I'm really not that good at. Dan does a lot better job. Each of us will have a list of retro games. Each of us have compiled this list with prices, and we will each try to guess the total value of said list. And we'll get listener lists, which we have one today. And whoever gets closest to the total value of everyone's lists at the end of the game will be the winner. And we don't really have prizes. This is a pride. You get to say that you won. And just to sweeten the pot for Liam, he will, if he wins, he will be the first guest to win the Prices Retro game.
Oh man, no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yes. You could always, if you want to,
I still have yet to win. If it makes you feel better.
Well, and I almost, for my list this week, and I promised to do it in a future week, and I'll just submit it in. I almost did a completely Super Nintendo based list because I was like, I gotta toss something over to Sam. I mean, you're gonna know that stuff, right? So
I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was gonna say you can always go for the opposite and try to get the worst guessing ability, which I think still belongs to Nintendo. When we had him on as a guest, I think he was just totally throwing things out there to
Game Pass News Nintendo, to be clear.
Yes,
we don't want to throw
Pass
our
News.
other Nintendo under the bus.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I forgot. We do have 2 Nintendos that hang out with us. And I don't even want to say the OG, but because I don't know which one actually was on Discord first. But anyway, yes, Game Pass News Nintendo. But anyway, we're going to get to the lists. And since Liam is the guest, he can go first for this as well.
Cool. In keeping with the spirit of all this, I do have a theme. I considered it being dinosaurs with Dan gone, but I will not turn this into a dinosaur podcast. So I'm going to go with something else here. So the first one, these will all 4 games will be complete in box. I have Sheeran the Wanderer for the Wii, complete. 999 for the DS, complete. AI the Somnium Files for the Nintendo Switch, complete. And Escape from Bug Island for the Wii, complete.
Oh boy. I think I was tracking well until that last game.
Yeah, I have no idea what that game is.
It's a survival
Wii
horror
games,
game on the Wii. Yeah.
Okay, we got a genre. Survival horror, huh?
Survival
Yeah,
horror.
That's actually not even what I was thinking.
No. And I can only imagine that the AI game has probably gone up in value since I've looked at it a long time ago. Because that was a pretty early Switch game, wasn't it?
I think it was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably 2018, mid to end of 2018.
Okay. Well, I am just going to guess and probably be wrong, but I'll say 375.
Cool. Sam?
I'm always worried that you know something I don't know because my guess is considerably lower. I'm guessing 215.
Wow. The correct answer is 218. Sam is
Nice.
3 off.
Sam is
Off to a
on
good
it.
start this week.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So these are all Spike Chunsoft developed games. So Sheeran the Wanderer is one that's been on my phone notepad for 3-4 years at this point. I just never seem to find it. That is $100. 999 9 persons, 9 hours, 9 doors for the DS is $40. AI the Somnium Files is sitting at 65. I think that's going to go up higher, but
That's
right
kinda
now
what
it's
I
sitting
was
around 65. Yeah.
banking on.
And then Escape from Bug Island is $13.
Yeah, I should have known that.
Spike's just one of those weird developers. I like it could have the Atlas situation where they just balloon up because nobody bought the game. But then some of them just kind of sit. Like I said, I think AI is going to fly up there. I grabbed a copy of The World Ends With You for Switch because I see that's already creeping, and you can't find that anywhere. There's just a couple of those Switch games from 2018 that they've gone out of print already, and they're kind of creep up.
Oh, yeah. All right.
All right, Sam.
So, Sam, your turn.
All right, my list is next. I do, of course, also have a theme because I just think themed lists are fun. So there's a mix of complete and loose. I'll specify. So first we have 100 classic books for the Nintendo DS, complete. Followed by Sticky Bear Reading for the Philips CDI, loose.
Oh, gosh.
Junior Classic Books and Fairy Tales for the Nintendo DS, complete. And lastly, the King James Bible for the Game Boy, loose.
You probably just brought the most random list of games I've ever heard of.
That's fantastic.
They're all
might have
books.
that.
That's the theme.
I might have that CD. I have a bag of CDI games somebody gave me a while back. I may have that game in the other room, but I've never looked at it.
Gosh, I don't even know where to start.
I've got a number. I'm gonna go with a hot $70.
Okay.
I was thinking around the realm of $50, so. But I'm probably going to get burned on the Bible.
Get burned on the Bible, huh? That sounds intense.
If I underguess it, yes. And let me. Liam, you said 75?
I said 70.
70, okay, thank you.
All right. 100 classic books for the Nintendo DS is $11.20. Sticky Bear Reading for the Philips CDI is $7.05. Junior Classic Books and Fairy Tales for the Nintendo DS Complete is $5.99. And the King James Bible for the Game Boy is $178.03.
Oh my god!
Bringing the
Told you I was
total
gonna
to
get burned by the Bible.
$227.
Wow! Wow!
And convincing
Do we
mom
know
and
why
dad
it's
to
so
let you
much?
take your Game Boy to Sunday school is priceless.
I'm guessing it was a limited print or something like that. Do we know why it's so much money? That is crazy. Wow.
I think the complete is like over 300.
Oh, jeez, man. Cool. Great list.
It's the best way to read the Bible is on your Game Boy. Everyone knows that.
Clearly.
I mean, that's where I would read it if I had that.
So what was the total again, Sam?
202.27.
Which
Alright.
will be rounded down to 202.
That's fine.
Yep. All right. So, I don't know. Did you go through your list, Liam? I forgot on the individual prices.
I did, yeah. It was,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just making sure.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. So, my list also has a theme, and you guys will know it right away because I already kind of talked about it.
Sweet.
So, the first game on my list is Dark Cloud for the PS2, complete. The second game on my list is Dark Cloud 2 for the PS2, complete. The third game on my list is Odin Sphere for the PS2, complete. And the fourth game is Rogue Galaxy on the PS2, complete.
Thinking about
Alright.
175, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm at 220. Just doing math, yeah.
Alrighty. So the total for my list is a $101.
Wow.
They're PS2 games, guys.
Lower than I thought.
Yeah, I know. Just those sequels. Sometimes it's sometimes you have that sequel
one of the
condition.
Dark Cloud games was like over 60 for some
Well,
reason.
The sequel is more expensive, but again, like I said, you got to remember these are PS2 games.
Yeah.
So Dark Cloud Complete is $14.
Wow.
Dark Cloud 2 Complete is $37. So like I said, it got a price hike, but it's still a PS2 game. So
Yeah.
Odin Sphere is $25 complete, and Rogue Galaxy is $25 complete as well.
Wow.
So, alrighty.
Nicely done,
We-
Sam.
We also have a guest list.
There is another round.
Mm-hmm.
So we will go through. It's 5 games, and we will guess at the theme afterwards and
Okay.
have it all here. So here we go.
I'm,
Game.
I'm looking at what Dan said. Has relayed to us. He says to reveal the theme first and guess what games might be in the theme.
Oh,
Oh.
okay. Sorry, I read that backwards. Okay, so we're going to reveal the theme right now, and it is the Collector V's The Pragmatic, or 5s. It's capital V and
I
S.
think Collector
versus.
versus.
Oh, versus. Okay,
So
there's no period
I'm thinking
on it.
this
So
this could be like maybe games that are very rare on certain platforms and not on others, maybe
Okay.
So similar to what we were talking about with
like with
the
GameCube
PS2
versus
and the GameCube.
PS2.
yeah, Code Veronica. And yeah.
Alrighty. So we're gonna roll right into it, and game number 1 is Super Mario Bros. For the NES, new.
New.
Yes. And to be clear, none of these will be like graded or anything, so just a straight new copy of Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
Game number 2 is Super Mario Brothers 2 for the Famicom Disk System, new.
Oof.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Game 3 is Super Mario Brothers 2 for the NES, new. Game 4 is Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, new. Game 5 is Super Mario All-Stars, the Nintendo Selects for the Wii, loose.
Oh my gosh.
A loose copy.
What a curveball there at the end. Yeah.
Yes. So, let me know if you want the list again, since I did read it kind of slow and we were, going through it.
Now I think I got a number. I'm going to throw out 320.
That's actually pretty close to what I was thinking. I never know with these new games, but from what little I've paid attention, they're often not extremely high price hikes over the complete. Because new can mean anything. So I'm thinking 350.
I'm going to roll the dice here and say I'm just going to go 600.
Wow. Okay. Jeez.
Watch me be totally wrong, but I just have
there's a lot of wild cards. Because the first one is Super Mario Bros. 1 for the regular NES, right? New?
Yes.
Like, how many people actually bought that? It came bundled in with so many of those consoles. So, yeah, it could be anything.
Let's roll through our answers one more time. Sam, what'd you guess?
350.
350.
I did 320.
Okay, 350 and 320. So let me fill it in here. Okay, so the total for this group of games is $775. Oh, no. Hold on. The total is $6,802.
What?
So are these like graded, new, sealed?
I don't think they're graded. Let's hop on price charting really quick and
That's
just take
crazy.
a look.
I don't know. New prices seems. I don't know. I don't know if.
Unless
I'm curious how much data they have on new, or are they lumping? Because all of that would be new. So like if they want to throw in.
No,
like,
that's the price for
the one that was 8,000 or whatever.
That's not even graded. The graded price.
Okay, they have that separate.
For Mario Bros is $1,000.
For Mario Bros.
That
1?
doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
Graded collectors are insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through the total. Or I just said the total. Let me put the total in really quick. Hold on a sec.
This is crazy.
6802. Okay. So, we'll go through the list really quick. So, Super Mario Brothers 1, brand new, $775 for the NES.
Man.
Super Mario Brothers 2, The Lost Levels for the Famicom Disk System is $300 new. Super Mario Brothers 2, the USA version, is $2,607 new. Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES new is $3,103. And Mario All-Stars for the Wii is $16.80. That was a throwaway. Like, you didn't even have to guess.
That was the pragmatic side.
Yes. Yep. And that's what barely cracked it up over $6,800.
Jeez.
So, in a weird turn of events, since I took a random jump up from you guys that was almost $250 difference than you guys, I actually won. I came from behind.
The last round is the only one that mattered.
Yes, and this one for sure. So I had a difference of 6,511. Wow. Which is weird to say. Sam had a difference of 6,529. And Liam had a difference of 6,733, which
is probably the biggest fail.
I was going to say, I think you just took the crown, even though it was kind of an unfair
Thanks, yeah, that's
swathing
great.
of...
No, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you, Flightsy, for that. And here is the explanation behind his theme. He said the idea behind the theme is that there is a collector and a pragmatist who want to play the games. The first 4 games are the ones the collector will buy, and he's getting them in the best condition he can.
Okay.
The last game is what the pragmatist buys, as he just wants to play the game, or wants to play all the games at the lowest cost possible, which is the truth.
That's so
and
true.
A lot of times, the collector owns all of these, never opens the first 4, and only plays Mario All-Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the reason
true.
why those prices are so high is because if you have Super Mario Bros. In a box and never open it, there's something wrong with you. You should be playing it.
The one that gets me is Super Mario Brothers 3. $3,000 for an ungraded,
a new copy?
brand new copy. Yeah, just a brand new copy that's sitting on someone's shelf.
That's so crazy.
Like, I could understand if it's graded, but I have to look that up real quick.
I feel like this has to be a bubble, though, because it's not that new games are worth that much. It's that people buy new Mario games because they anticipate them increasing. You know.
Yeah, but these are all older games. Because
I've noticed, like, from the more obscure games, there will be a new listing, and it'll be, you know, basically the same price as complete in box. Like, nobody cares if it's a game that only people who are really into games have heard of.
So, this is a huge jump, too. The loose price for Super Mario Bros. 3 is $13.
Mm-hmm.
But a graded brand new copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 is $3,500.
Wow.
Oh, that's
I mean, I've seen it complete for like
record,
$70
right? For the most expensive game ever auctioned was a variant sealed Mario Bros. 3, right? Or was that
with the
already
Bros on the left?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure on that. I do know that it was pretty somewhat recent. We talked about it on the show. The variant with the Bros on the left side of the box instead of on the right above Mario's head. It's funny because I have a complete in-box version of Super Mario Bros. 3 that comes from the I think it's the challenge set of the NES. So mine has the tape that goes all the way around the box that says challenge set on it.
Cool.
It's opened. It's not a new, which would have been probably pretty nice, but I got it at a thrift store for $3, so I can't complain. Anyway, that was Price is Retro, and that was a fun one. That was a blast. Thanks again, Flightsy, for the list. That definitely spiced things up. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is crossplay with, I think we're, 3 weeks into crossplay. So we're going to start wrapping this up, and the game is Chrono Trigger, and we will have a live podcast discussion on July 8th at 9 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time. And registration is required. It'll be a quick form, and you also must be a member of the RetroLogic Discord to participate, which is also free. Come join our Discord. Come hang out and just talk games with everybody. It's a blast. Let's see. So that's it for crossplay. We won't talk a whole lot about it because everyone's getting pretty far into the game, and we'll save that for the actual discussion. So now we're going to talk about today in gaming, and I think Liam was the only person that picked a game out for this. Everything else was kind of off topic.
It was a weird week. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's summer. There's usually not a lot of major releases in summer.
Yeah, that's true. But I saw that Zero Time Dilemma released 5 years ago. I don't know if you guys have ever played any of the Zero Escape games.
This is 999 was in your list, right?
Yeah, well, it was all Spike Chunsoft. Yeah, so all three of those are theirs, as is the AI Somnium Files. And the guy who created the Zero Escape games actually did AI as well. This one, admittedly, I haven't played this one yet. I played 999 upon its first release, and then played Virtue's Last Reward, which was the sequel when that came out in like 2011 or 2012, and so then replayed 999. And so then when this came out, I picked it up, but I'm like, am I going to play through the other 2 games again? So I haven't gotten around to it. I have that with like the Game of Thrones books where I'm like, I'm just going to leave them there until he maybe writes them, because I can't read all those books again until it's actually over. But I don't know if you guys are Saw fans or escape room fans or whatever. I'm not a big visual novel person. I always think I'm going to be, and then the tropey stuff kind of puts me off. But the dialogue in these games is really good, and the puzzles are good. I love the Professor Layton series, and this is like if Professor Layton was in a Saw movie. Yeah, I mean they're fun. They don't take too long, and they're built to be replayed a bunch of times because they have branching paths from the start. So there's a bunch of different endings, and you can kind of, as you go through, figure out, oh, if I had been in this group and done this thing, then I would have found out what happened in that room, and then it would cue me into what else is going on in the story.
I've actually played 999. That's the only game in the series I've played, and that's actually, I don't know if the rest of the games are like this, but that's actually part of the plot, is playing the game multiple times.
It is, yeah, and that comes up a bunch in the second one, and I'm assuming in the third one as well. So definitely one, I'd love to see a re-release, put it on the list of the 50 things on the DS that are kind of stuck there that would be great to have elsewhere. But it's a great series, and they're not too expensive, as we saw. I mean, 999 was $40. I think the other 2 are sitting around that as well.
For DS games anymore, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with these and haven't played them. Do they take heavy advantage of the dual screen format of the DS, or would they be easily brought over to the Switch or something?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. There may have been mobile ports for some of these, I'm not sure, but a lot of the puzzle sort of things do have touch integration. Some of it's just clunky menu and item management, but there are a bunch of puzzles that kind of have a touchscreen component to it. So yeah, it would be pretty tricky.
This is where the Nintendo needs to come out with some kind of device that turns the Switch permanently, turns it up on its side and is controllable that way, where you can have both screens.
Yeah. I mean, they figured some of that stuff out on the Wii U, and the Wii U obviously did kind of have 2 screens to it. But
it helped.
It did help, but you could play some of those DS games that they ported over there.
You can't always just split a screen in 2. I mean,
that's what I was talking about.
That's how DS emulators work.
Yeah. If they could take the Switch and allow you to play it up on its end, like vertically, and just use that as 2,
and you've got the touch screens.
Yeah. So I'm saying,
but that still sticks you in handheld mode, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
To have a game that's not playable docked.
Yeah.
I guess that's not as bad as having a game that's not playable handheld, because then you exclude all Switch Lite only people.
You exclude probably 30% of your consumers.
Right.
But all right, let's talk about some game re-releases that are coming out here soon. Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol. These are limited run published games that will be coming out here soon. I think you have until July 18th, which is funny because we talked a little bit about this on Tim's show, The Dinner Table. It's on the Nintendo Dads Network of podcasts. Somebody on there was thinking that that there was only a 3-day pre-order window for this game. It gets confusing when July and June fall right after each other.
Yeah.
But so you'll have plenty of time. Go pre-order these games. They're both good games that are very expensive now. So this would be a really
if
good
you
way to
are
go back
okay
and play
with
them.
just getting them digitally, that becomes available on the eShop tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is.
Are you guys picking up physicals on either of these, or are you just doing digital?
I think I'm gonna go physically.
I'm honestly not a big limited run guy. Like, I think it's great that that's available, but and it's not their fault. It's, they're, giving you a product that is worth it. It's just not worth it to me. There's a significant markup and a significant delay in getting the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That, if I'm willing to invest that much in a game, I would have to like it a lot, and if I like it that much, I want to play it right away. And if I don't want to pay that much for it.
I mentioned on there also that a lot of times I'll buy these games and I'll totally forget that I had purchased them because sometimes it takes so long. A good example of that is, and it took me forever to get to this game for that reason, but Celeste, that game got pushed until the DLC came out from Limited Run. So I purchased that game and a couple other games to save on shipping. And how Limited Run works is you're not going to get any of your games until all of them are ready to ship in your order. So Celeste held up 2 other games for almost a year. Oh. And I totally forgot, that I even ordered them, and they just showed up in the mail one day.
Yeah. I definitely bundled something. They had a Monkey Island Deluxe thing that they put out like late last year, I think it was.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
I ordered that, but I also ordered like 1 or 2 other things around that, and I don't even know. I've forgotten what else I ordered that's going to show up with that. But I will say, when I saw the Zombies Ate My Neighbors announcement or like email from it, I remembered that I hadn't picked up Blaster Master 03 yet, and I have 1 and 2 physical, and so I was like, I might as well just I love that series. I think it's so good, and so I bundled those 2 together. So that means I'm not going to be playing Blaster Master 03 until the Zombies Ate My Neighbors thing ships, which is probably October, November at the earliest.
Now, did you buy them for Super Nintendo, or did you buy them for the Switch?
I bought them for the Switch.
Okay.
I have Zombies Ate My Neighbors for Super Nintendo, and I heard that Ghoul Patrol's good, but not as good. And I don't know. I feel like the convenience of it's what it is. Like, I feel like just sitting on my couch and playing that would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably as well do the dual pack for the Switch, and try not to bundle it with anything. But I also might pick up Blaster Master.
That series has wound up at Best Buy. Sometimes those limited run games wind up at Best Buy, and then you get a second chance at them.
Now, I did learn my lesson. They do announce that they're coming to Best Buy beforehand, but I used to wait until they went to Best Buy, knowing that they would go there. And a lot of times Best Buy will sell them at regular price for a very short period of time, and then just start discounting them.
Wow.
So I would get quite a few limited run games at like $20 instead of $35.
If you time it right, that's great.
If you time it right. Yeah. So I did the same thing with Turok and Turok 2.
Ooh.
I really wanted these games, but I gambled and I let them go to Best Buy. And then I waited and waited. They never went down. And then they sold out. So I missed them completely. And then I think it was like 6 months ago, Limited Run was doing a house cleaning deal where they were getting rid of a bunch.
Yeah, they do it around New Year's every year.
Yep. So I picked up Turok 1 and 2 from them during that.
Nice.
At full price.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as bad. It wasn't a complete failure, but I definitely learned my lesson.
When they do that, you have to be like sitting at your computer at 11 a.m. whatever on New Year's Day. Like, step away from your family and be like, I'm just gonna be gone for 30 minutes screaming in the next room.
Hold on, I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
Dial up everything I need real quick, and then.
I'm going to punch into my RetroGroove mode a little bit here and point out that Best Buy also gets, when Limited Run does their vinyl releases, Best Buy also gets those. And I've been eyeing the Blaster Master vinyl soundtrack. But then when I review it, and I do like the soundtrack of Blaster Master, the Zero series, but it doesn't feel like the original game, and they've never re-released that music anywhere. And the music from the NES game is just so iconic to me. I played that game so much, and I keep wanting the Zero games to have like reimagining of the music, and it's there in parts, but they did their own thing, and that's it's great and it's really good, but it's not the same. Yeah.
I mean, go pick up Blaster Master on the NES. It's cheap, and it's a great game.
So good.
Blaster Master is unfortunately not the winner of the Retro Rewind poll. I did vote for it, though.
It is not.
Is there a winner determined?
So, we're going to talk about that now.
Okay.
That's part of our community content. Or, wait. Nope. Sam, you skipped ahead.
Did I?
You have to wait. Yep. We're going to talk about a tiny little game that nobody knows anything about. We're going to do a small game highlight here. And whenever I run this show, I tell the guests to pick out a game that they want to talk about that they're real passionate about, and we just let them go at it. And this week the game is Path of Radiance, Fire Emblem.
That's right.
And I know nothing about this game, and I meant to read up a little bit about it without spoiling anything, just to see if it was different from Fire Emblem I play. And I didn't even get to do that, so I'm going to let you and Sam talk about this one. I'm going to bow out.
It's going to have to be mostly Liam, because I played only the sequel. But I think the sequel does Radiant Dawn, which was the sequel on the Wii. It does a pretty good job of filling you in on the story so far. I think that's one of the things that is, and it can stand on its own all the same with that. Like, you don't have to play Path of Radiance to appreciate it. Like, there's going to be characters that show up that you're supposed to recognize, but in the end, like, any good fantasy story is going to, this is something that's been part of that whole genre in all media since Tolkien, is they're going to establish that this is a world that has history, right? So whether there was a game before it or not, they'd be telling you, oh yeah, there was a war and these people fought these people and now they're getting ruled over by this empire and there's tension there and what's going on.
So was that, I think you had said, is that your first Fire Emblem game that you played, Sam?
Yeah, Radiant Dawn, one of the very few Fire Emblem games to be a direct sequel to another Fire Emblem game, was the one I decided to start playing Fire Emblem with.
So has there been a direct sequel on a different game?
So Mystery of the Emblem technically is a sequel to Shadow Dragon, but it was bundled together. It was like they remade it and added more, basically, like included a sequel to it.
And there is some very tenuous threads between Awakening and Fates.
Well, they with exist in the same continent.
Dimension hopping shenanigans going on.
Yeah, they're technically on the same continent, and the countries that you play in, or the kingdoms that you play within Awakening, is thousands of years later and maybe in a separate universe, but maybe not.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It gets a little confusing. But they do know of Marth. They know certain things about Marth in that timeline. So so many of the Fire Emblem games take place in a bubble on their own, that one at least does have some kind of continuity there. So for me, I was in college when the Game Boy Advance games came out, but I was working at a restaurant, and so I would wind up with tip money and stuff in my pockets, and instead of being a responsible person in college, I would go to the video game store. I'd go down to my GameStop, and I'd see what looks cool. And I picked up Sacred Stones because I think it was like $40 or something like that, and it had a knight on the cover, and it looked cool. And I loved that game, except I played it very wrong. There's a point, and I'm thinking of the right game. It might have been the first, because I went back to the first one afterwards. But I protected my lord. I kept him. Like, I built up all the guys around me in my group, and I, played defense for my prince. And then there's a point in the game when they fracture your party, and he has to fight for himself. And boy, could he not fight for himself. And there's no way, it's not like a grindy RPG where you can go back in most situations and boost your guy. So I remember restarting that game and playing through it again, and playing it the quote-unquote right way. And I loved it, and then I went and I picked up the first one, the first GBA game, and loved that. And so when I saw that there was one coming out for the GameCube, I was a massive and am a massive GameCube fan. That's probably like the biggest chunk of my collection. Some of my most nostalgic moments in gaming, my favorite moments in gaming are on that console. And so I was super excited when that came out, and it lived up, man. A lot of the criticisms of this game is that it feels like a souped up Game Boy or Super Nintendo game. Like some of the animation is great and cinematic because it's on a disc, but it's the same thing as any other Fire Emblem game that you played before that, which is, when a sword fighter fights an axe wielder, they have the same animation unless they get a critical hit, and then they do their second animation. And in a flashy home console disc-based game, replaying the same animation 300 times throughout the game is really stale for a lot of people. But I had played the 2 GBA games, and so I was just used to seeing them flipping the arrows around the same way over and over again. So I loved it. I then got Radiant Dawn and never finished it, because what I loved about those 3 games before that is that, like I got punished the first time, you do need to kind of flesh out your party and be smart and tactical and build up. And Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm just having some kind of, I had a weird moment or whatever, but there are points in Radiant Dawn where you just stop playing as the characters that you were playing as and suddenly start playing with a new group of characters.
The whole game.
Yeah. So you went from a series where you were progressing and it's that great
as a
engagement
matter of fact,
yeah.
This is only halfway through the game. I don't consider it a huge spoiler. You will actually have to have your teams fight each other at one point.
Like, why do that? Like, what's the point of that? Like,
well, plot-wise, there's reasons.
Sure, no, that's fair. I just it definitely turned a dynamic. There's always, as you love a series, there's improvements that are made that maybe you value over something else. And something that I always loved about the series is that kind of building and that progression. I always went and I got the new characters to get the dialogue, to bring them into your party, and I would restart missions if I didn't get them. And then to put in work over chapter and chapter on a party and then have it suddenly taken away from you, and then I guess later on thrown back in your face, just it doesn't seem in the spirit. But what I will say is I've always kind of had it, because it's still on my shelf, out of the corner of my eye, because I love the story of Path of Radiance. I think that it is one of the more compelling of them all. I liked Awakening a lot. But Path of Radiance, everyone's familiar with Ike from Super Smash Brothers. He's a fantastic character. He wasn't in Fire Emblem Warriors, which I'll be 100% honest. I bought that game thinking they were going to add DLC.
Yeah, that game
you should
was
never buy a game.
Fire Emblem Fates Warriors. If we're being Fates and Awakening Warriors.
Fates and Awakening, honest. with some Marth, because they didn't.
They put in...
maybe Tiki, I think. Although Tiki was in Awakening, so yeah. So I bought it. Never buy a game thinking that there's going to be DLC. Buy it for the game you're buying. And I didn't listen to myself. And I bought that game thinking, well, someday I'll get to play as the characters from the 2 Radiant games, because there's 2 Radiant games. And they just never, ever, they just didn't do it. They just never did it.
And Ike is a fan favorite character for a reason. Because most Fire Emblem protagonists, from up and pre-Awakening at least, now as of Awakening, they're self-insert, custom character, blank slates, which I'm not a fan of. But before Ike, they were all basically Marth. You know, they all follow
Prince.
the template of Marth, even in their backstory, in their stats. Ike was a break from that, a long overdue break from that. He's not even royalty. He's a low-born mercenary who constantly just does not give a crap to all the nobles putting on airs around him. And that's really refreshing, I think, for long-term fans of the series.
Well, and in Path of Radiance, he's also just second-guessing himself the whole time. He's taking over, or he's growing into the position of taking over his father's mercenary squad, and half of the squad doesn't think that he can do it. And so you have this like back and forth of like your teammates that you're counting on who are kind of trash-talking you to your face and behind your back saying like, this kid stinks, we got to get out of here, like, this isn't going to work out. It feels very tenuous. I think I'll go back to the Tolkien thing. You know, it feels like they're against the odds for almost the entire game. Again, I don't want to get spoilery, but they're like the omnipresent kind of villains in this game that are hunting you, and you are trying to fight back and win people over and create an alliance. They've done it in other games and they do it well. Again, I really liked Awakening, but there's something about these characters, about the mercenaries, that everyone is just so well thought out and fleshed out. This game didn't sell well. It sold 150,000 copies. Its sequel sold 170,000 copies. To compare that to Awakening, which I think everybody knows, they had said that if this doesn't sell well, this will be the end of the story or the end of the series. Who knows? That sold 2 million copies. So I think it needs another shot. You know, like it has been kind of left in the same desert that most GameCube games have been left in, that we're all kind of hoping changes at some point in the near future. But yeah, I mean, what'd you say?
They brought Luigi's Mansion back, so come on.
They did.
Yeah. GameCube's just in this weird spot where it seems like it's too recent for them to just emulate and dump on like an NSO app for whatever reason. I don't know if that's technically the case, but that seems to be the way Nintendo views it. But the remakes aren't happening because they're too busy remaking Wii U games.
Right, but
which is probably easier to do as well.
Yeah, Radiant Dawn doesn't have any real waggle stuff going on, right? You can use motion controls to move stuff, but it's a tactical game. The
controls are as simple as NES.
So it is surprising.
Confirm, deny buttons.
Yeah, it is surprising to me that this series has gone to become such a huge part of Nintendo's past decade, and they've remade, some others, and that this series that just seems there, like these two games that I feel like wouldn't really take much more than some quality of life stuff. I mean, there's clunky things. I booted it up again in anticipation of this tonight, just to like remind myself of some of the quality of life things, and there's some hiccups in there that I'm now used to from Fates. I haven't actually played Three Houses.
The fast forward button is one that
well, and just also like calculating moves and stuff. Yeah. Look, I never turn off permadeath, but you can't turn it off in this game, and I could see that putting off people. Like they probably feel like if they reissue this game or remake these games, that they now have to have some other options. Because this game's easy too.
That's a bit of a tough. I mean, you were kind of getting at this. I know we talked about it on the show when we talked about RNG. I brought up Fire Emblem because that is a game that builds around the fact that a bad chance could very drastically change your playthrough. And it's always been kind of a struggle the series has had, is that you do notice in the earlier games, especially the pre-Awakening games, there is an expectation you are going to lose units. By Awakening, they kind of built towards the idea that, look, we know most people don't want to lose their units. If we build the game in such a way where we kind of just accept that people are just going to restart the mission if somebody dies, or give them an option to bring everybody back at the end of everyone, then, we're free to do other things. We're free to actually use all the characters in the story. We don't have to write the plot so that it still makes sense if so-and-so is not alive, right?
Makes things a lot easier.
And I think that's part of like what goes back to what some of your issues with Radiant Dawn are, is because I think the very original intent of Fire Emblem is that having those units you built up taken away from you is something that is supposed to just happen because an enemy gets a critical hit.
Right.
But most people don't accept that. And they hadn't quite come around to the fact that that's the way people were playing the game.
Right.
Well, if we go off of I think if we ever do get these games again, I think if it's just a straight port of the original games over, sort of like what they did with Shadow Dragon, I think it's going to be very similar to how it was, if not exactly the same as how it was. If they do a remake of the game, I'd say we'll probably see something similar to how they do it in Three Houses, where you do probably have a way to, get a few chances to save somebody.
Right. The time rewind or whatever it is.
Yeah, or even rewind back to rethink your strategy.
And Three Houses is interesting, too, because structurally there aren't many characters that are locked away. There's a few, but most characters are available to you to recruit very early.
Yes.
And your starting house is there, and that's sort of intended to be your group anyway.
Correct.
So
now, John, you haven't played much Fire Emblem, right?
I've only played a little bit of Awakening, and that was after Three Houses. I tried to go back and play a few.
Okay.
I would love to go back and play Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn. I just don't really want to pay $300 to get a copy of it, so I'm kind of waiting to see
Imagine if they remade them both as a duo pack. That would be a game that takes like 120 hours to beat, but...
Yeah. I mean, that sounds fantastic to me. I mean, I'm getting the Steelbook, I'm getting all the art book inserts, deluxe edition. I'll camp outside of GameStop for that for sure.
You would maybe even just condense some of Radiant Dawn. I don't know, but like if you could have it so that the characters that reappear, like when you get Ike in Radiant Dawn, he's actually the same level you left him off at Path of Radiance.
Yeah,
because Radiant Dawn did make it so people promote twice instead of just once. So it does, like, people have 60 level ups in Radiant Dawn, whereas they only have 40 in most games.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think there was also some sort of transfer thing, too. I can't remember. It was like, I think it was your bonds carried over. Again, I didn't really do it, but I think that if you had forged bonds between certain characters in Path of Radiance and had a save file, it carried over to Radiant Dawn. Pretty minimal, but
yeah.
Anyway, I hope we got away with some Fire Emblem talk with Dan not here.
I always thought the Laguz units were really cool.
They are so cool.
Bring those back.
Yeah. I mean, all we ever get are dragon iterations of that.
You had the Taguels.
The whole, again, I don't want to get super spoily, but like the premise of the game is that there's all these other countries or these other kingdoms on this continent that are being tossed into a war, and most of these kingdoms are these non-human, half-human, half-animal. They can morph between the two, but they've been persecuted, and it's about racism and genocide. There's some like real deep stuff that goes on in here, where there's like a one kingdom of them that's just kind of sectioned themselves off from the world because they don't trust everybody around them, and there's half-breeds. I mean, it gets really pretty wild, but the beats are there. But yeah, I think that, like I said, I think that we see a lot of those dragon characters still. I mean, Tiki was in a bunch of things, and she transforms from human form to dragon form. But the wolf, the cat, the bird, the tiger. I mean, there's so many cool characters in that series, and just like left them there.
The newer games get away from that. There's not near as many other races or anything in the newer games. It's almost all
humanoids.
Class.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that'd be an interesting thing to bring back for sure.
Yeah. But as I mentioned, I know Dan has said that he can't really get into the Fire Emblem series, and so when we were talking about games that we could go into, it seemed fitting to do a Fire Emblem channel.
Dan's
He's
not here now.
Yes.
Get the Fire Emblem out of the way.
I even told Dan, I was like, if you will play Three Houses, I will buy it for you. I was like, I'll buy you a copy and send it your way.
Wow.
Because it's super fun game.
Yeah, I've got to play it. It's the only one that I really haven't played. I've played pretty much everything else other than the Japanese games, and even those I'm plotting my gaming of.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if they, don't remake Genealogy of the Holy War at some point.
That's the one I've got. I have the Super Famicom cartridge, and I have the ROM, and I'm ready to go.
Amongst old school Japanese fans, they still say that's the best one.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, too. That's why I picked that up.
Isn't there rumors that is going to be remade?
Yeah, but I think there are
American
rumors
audiences?
of the sort of... A lot of people agree would be a good idea.
Yeah. It was because they put the Echoes tag on Valencia that they were like, well, you're making a new sub-brand.
Is a subtitle, so what is Fire Emblem Echoes? It's the remake series.
Yeah, it leaves it open. And so when you open the door a little bit,
And Echoes was
Everybody
great,
wants to
too.
take everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I have everything from the 3DS up. I own them all, I just haven't played them all yet. So those are definitely ones I need to get back to at some point.
Yeah. You should get the GBA ones on the Wii U, man. Like Sacred Stones and the first one are really easy to play. Again, they're not going to have the quality of life stuff, but you don't need it. Like a gamer like you're not going to need it.
I bought Shadow Dragon, the collector's edition for the Switch. I haven't got to deep dive into it yet either. There's just too many games.
Yeah.
Not enough time to play everything.
I got reasonably far, but I never finished it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's been Fire Emblem talk. And we need to have that more often. There's a huge lack of Fire Emblem talk with the normal, with Dan around. He's not a big fan. He would do Advance Wars all day.
Yeah.
And I keep telling him there's not a lot of difference. There's not enough difference to keep you away from it. You should definitely play Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem is a fundamentally different game. Fire Emblem is an RPG.
Yeah, but he just likes tactics in general. So like he likes Final Fantasy Tactics.
He's
Final
put
Fantasy
off. I went back
closer.
That's what I'm saying. He likes those too.
I went back and I looked at his tweets about Fire Emblem specifically for this. He doesn't like the visual novel stuff that has really bubbled up in the later games.
To be fair, that's me too.
Yeah,
but and Three Houses, and it's still there, but it won me back to a way where I'm like, I'm okay with the way it is now. But Fates was Fates was too much. Fire Emblem's not for me anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. Same. But I'll say that when you go back to those GBA games and you go back to the Radiant games, it's there a little bit, but you have your support systems and you have your side dialogues, but it's not a whole sub game to the game.
And that was something Three Houses did that put it more in line with that, is that it's not matchmaker anybody with anybody. It's, certain characters that it makes sense for them to have a close relationship of any kind. That's there. And other characters that have nothing to do with each other, don't bother writing a crappy story about how they bond peeling potatoes. Nobody even wants that.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get Dan into Valkyria Chronicles as well, because it's a cheaper experience that's still good. Like, it's not cheap gameplay wise, it's cheap value wise.
Would we say that though, John? I don't know if I'm gonna agree with you there, because I loved Valkyria Chronicles 4, but then once you got late game and there's something that keeps happening over and over again where a character keeps coming back and doing stuff, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Valkyria Chronicles.
There's certain things in there where I'm like, there's no need. There's no reason for this character to have returned for the 5th time or the 4th time and keep it.
There is some of that.
Yeah,
but
sorry, I love that series, so I'm right there.
Yeah, the gameplay is good.
It's so good. The characters are great.
I just recently, with my PSP that I grabbed 2. So I've been wanting to get back to it, and 3 is one that I'll never play because it's Japanese only. But I keep telling Dan, I was like, you can get the first game is on sale on the Switch all the time for like $10. Just go buy it.
And the 4th one's so
good. It holds up.
Yep.
Oh yeah. But all right, we'll have to be done with Fire Emblem and
can't keep people in suspense over the retro rewind poll after I teased it.
As you all voted on both Discord channels, the RetroLogic Discord and Nintendo Dad's Discord, it appears that the tie has been broken, and the true winner of Retro Rewind is Castlevania Bloodlines. And
cool.
I'm glad you guys broke the tie, because we were going to have to try to figure out some weird tiebreaker between the 3 of us on the show tonight, and you guys just made my night a lot easier. So... Bloodlines it is. We're going to dive deep into some Castlevania, a really good Castlevania at that.
So this
will require you to have the Sega collection. Or the
Castlevania collection.
Not the
or
Castlevania
the original
collection.
Sega Genesis game.
Or Sega Genesis, yes. You could have the game on Sega Genesis. But yes, and the Castlevania collection has been on sale several times, and we've thrown out warnings to go ahead and pick it up, because we would be playing games from it. So this is going to be a blast. Everyone's going to have fun with this one.
Cool.
Obviously, if you really want to play Metroid Fusion and talk about Metroid Fusion in our Discord, you are still welcome to do so. In fact, we would love you to do so.
Yes. Metroid Fusion is... I will just come out and say I voted for Metroid Fusion, so...
Same.
I did not, and
but
once the
voting
opened up that we had, multiple choices we could vouch for, my first choice was Blaster Master, which didn't do so hot, but I dropped a vote for Bloodlines. Once that
it tied for 3rd place.
That's true. No shame.
I guess
in
nobody
being
wants
third.
to go back and play the original Metroid, which. If you do want to go back and play the original Metroid, I'd probably play Zero Mission.
Yeah.
It's definitely adds the newer game elements to an old game to make it more interesting. It's definitely the way to play it. And with the Retro Rewind out, we're going to talk about questions from our community. The first question here comes from Flightsy. And he asks, what is a game that you think misrepresents its own franchise? He apologizes because it's hard to kind of get that question out. But he gives us an example. He says that he would say Kirby Star Allies, although I have issues with Star Allies, I don't think it's a bad game. And he picked it because he feels it makes the Kirby franchise, or at least the modern Kirby games, seem a lot more kiddie than it actually is. And because it's the main Kirby game on Switch, I feel it has spread this impression to a lot of people. It's very tempting for me to write down a full lecture on why I think that it is right here, but I think that that's enough for you to all hopefully get an idea of what I mean by the question.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some answers from the Discord, and we'll read them first before we get to our own. And Infinite Blue says the Devil May Cry franchise has 2 of these. The first of which is the DMC reboot, which was so tonally discordant with the rest of the series, with its edgelord Hollywoodification of the plot and characters, It's a decent action game mechanically and would have been well received if they simply didn't call it DMC. He said, and then there's also DMC 2, which is a dull and bad video game by any measure. You'd be doing yourself a favor by going straight from 1 to 3. It is so unremarkable. So I haven't played any of the Devil May Cry games, so I can't.
Yeah, me neither.
Can't vouch for this, but I'll take Infinite Blue's word. $2 Hero says, I think a lot of the more recent Super Monkey Ball games are a good example of this. I've been playing Super Monkey Ball 2 again lately because I'm so hyped for Banana Mania, and bouncing from that to the, no pun intended, something like Banana Blitz HD is a jarring experience. The more modern entries in the series, which vastly outnumber what fans consider to be the good games, totally misrepresent what the games are about. Suddenly, there's jumping mechanics, and every level is littered with guardrails, or worst of all, control gimmicks. The series is about fun, challenging arcade gameplay with pitch-perfect controls, and most of the games in the series at this point aren't about that anymore. And I could totally agree with that sentiment, because the old games are very fun. They always remind me of Marble Madness, which is one of my favorite NES games. And adding guardrails and jumping mechanics that don't belong, that just totally ruins the game experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Banana Blitz is one of the games that gets talked about the most as being a not so good Super Monkey Ball game, and everyone was really down on the idea that it was getting ported to newer consoles, that they chose that one over all the other ones. That was like the thing I remember hearing the most. Like, out of all the good Monkey Ball games, they're going to bring Blitz over. Let's see. So we have Spider Shan says, I guess I'll have to go with Tales of Symphonia Dawn of New World for the Wii.
Oh man, I just bought that.
I know. I was just about to say. So there are quite a few Tales of games and spin-offs, and Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube is considered one of the best. I know it's my favorite in the series. I was hyped to play the sequel, but they decided to change a lot of the gameplay, including the use of monsters in place of human companions. You play as characters completely unrelated to the original game, and the characters that I loved from the first game were guest characters in the sequel that would come and go and were a hollow shell of what they were before. It's such a departure from what made the original so special. So, I guess did you play the original game, Tales of Symphonia?
No, that's on my ever-expanding list of RPGs to play.
I have, but I haven't played Dawn of the New World. But I have heard that about Dawn of the New World, about it. Just people being disappointed in it, especially considering that Tales of Symphonia is often regarded as the single best RPG on the GameCube.
Well, then I might have
in high regard. Best in the Tales series by a lot of fans of the series.
It's usually a toss-up between that and Vesperia. And then... Okay, so I think that's it for the Discord answers. Mm-hmm. We'll get to our answers.
Yeah, from his question, I think he was getting at, like, a game that isn't a spin-off and isn't just a bad entry, but is, because I think his point with Star Allies was that it's not a bad game, and it is still a Kirby game, but it kind of gives a different impression of what a Kirby game is if you were to play that first.
It's a mainline entry in the series.
Because any long-running series just about has its
break-off game.
It just does for whatever reason. They get rushed out. So I think if you hone in on that, there's because you could even say, like, one we just brought up, Metroid Fusion. It is markedly different from a lot of Metroid games, and there are a lot of Metroid fans that don't like Fusion because it's a lot more linear than other Metroid games. But it is still a Metroid game. It still has all the things you kind of expect a Metroid game to have. Mm-hmm. But if you were to play that first, you might be really, like, overwhelmed by Super Metroid, say.
Yeah, I mean, the Metroid series seems to go kind of back and forth. It seems like it puts the more linear games on its handhelds, and the console versions are the more sprawling versions of the game. Because Samus Returns was a more linear game than the original Metroid, and a lot more linear than Super Metroid for sure.
Mm-hmm. The other one I thought of is pretty much all the more recent Final Fantasy games. That's a little bit different because it's kind of it's just a break, sort of like we were talking about with Fire Emblem. There's pre-awakening Fire Emblem and there's post-awakening Fire Emblem. But what's weird about Final Fantasy is they just decided to kind of abandon the series' roots and reinvent it every installment. But yeah.
Story-wise and gameplay-wise, even.
Yeah.
I mean,
from 7 on.
Yeah. 7, well, I mean, Active Time Battle was, I think, still kind of a natural evolution. And I still see a level of continuity up to at least 10. My understanding is 12 is still kind of like those. 11 was an MMO, which was just a curveball.
Yeah.
Right.
But especially by the time you get to 13
similar.
And 15, it's like, what even is this
13's
anymore?
where you get the action RPG type tropes to it.
Well, 13 is weird. Kind of like Metroid Fusion. It's way more linear than previous games, and then 13.2 tried to fix that, but I really don't like their, to me a lot of it is about having a party, and the new Final Fantasy games put you in control of one character, and you just kind of have other characters there for like
supporting
assists.
Characters for
Yeah, for me, I mean, this question almost seemed perfect, like too perfect for me to be on this episode, because a while back you guys had talked about Yoshi's Story, and I think Dan was everyone was kind of down on it, and it's not the greatest game, especially if you view it as it is in the Yoshi series, following Island, and then continuing on through Crafted World and Woolly World and whatnot. But I think Yoshi's Story probably started a change in that series that most people are not happy with, because Yoshi's Island was just so good, and was really a successor in many ways to one of the best platformers of all time. And then you get Yoshi's Story, and it just doesn't feel like that at all. But what Yoshi's Story did do very well, which I would defend, and again, I was listening to that episode, and I'm like, I wish someone would defend this game a little bit, is there are so many secrets and unlockables and stuff that has then carried through to the other Yoshi games that I found a value. My sister could play that game and get through it because there's branching paths and you clear 6 levels and the game is over. But then I could sit there and hunt down the white and the black and try to get the purple colored Yoshis and collect all the melons and all the heart coins and everything. I found a lot of depth to that game. Again, it's definitely not a great platformer, but there's a lot of value there, and I think that it gets glossed over and has put Yoshi as a series in a box that Crafted World, I think specifically, has done a lot to dig itself. Woolly World was good too, but I think Crafted World has done a lot to kind of establish what that formula now is.
Not to reopen old wounds too, but I think Paper Mario is another series that's just
I think
it's just lost its way.
I was just about to say, Paper Mario is Super Paper Mario is where we've lost track. It's where it kind of veered off.
And that's more to like the initial example too of like Super Paper Mario, I would say, is actually still a very fun game in its own right. It's just
it fits his question to the T. It's not a bad game by any respects.
Now Sticker Star.
We're not going to get into Sticker Star on this show.
I played all of.
We try to stay positive here.
Yes, we're a positive community.
This is a happy place.
We're not. Yes,
non-toxic.
If we don't have good things to say about it, we just don't talk about them, and we move on. So,
I think we're going to talk about Paper Mario again in a second, though. So
yeah, probably.
just brace for it.
both of these questions kind of like went together. I don't even know.
They did.
They were very good. Had a very good common theme to them. But Chris HL94 Rewind. He had to add the rewind now. I'm not used to that. He asks, this is a question going to sound a little grumpy old dad, but what game franchise made a really great game but couldn't capture the greatness of the first game in any of its sequels?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he lists Bionic Commando for the NES, and that's a great example because anytime they try to redo... For some reason, Bionic Commando does not go to 3D well. It does not sequel well. The first game is awesome, and I tell everyone it's one of my favorite NES games, and everyone should go. It's Capcom Gold. But yeah, and you said that Paper Mario would fit in this, but I don't think it fits this one exactly because the sequel was great.
The sequel is arguably better than the original. It's just all downhill from there.
Yeah, just
Sticker Star,
everything.
Paper Jam, Color Splash.
If you took Thousand Year Door out, it would totally follow this example.
Yeah.
Although I will say Origami King was fantastic.
I have to play that.
It doesn't totally get back to its roots, but it definitely blends.
Origami King is good enough to make me mad that it's good.
It is, yes.
That's fantastic.
It's one of those things where it lacks in RPG elements. It totally makes up with it with the writing. Like, that game's writing just makes it.
Which, now that I've played the first Super Mario RPG on Super Nintendo, I kind of understand the heritage there. I remember that from Thousand Year Door and being like, how can this game be so funny? And now I'm seeing it before. I'm like, oh, it's funny because there were two games before it that are funny, and now I'm playing Paper Mario, and that was funny. So, it's fantastic. I threw in, I could throw Duke Nukem in there, except I don't know if Duke Nukem's ever had a good game. Maybe the early Apogee platformers. But
I'm partial to the N64 version, but
Duke Nukem 64. Okay,
yes.
That's fair. I said Banjo-Kazooie. I like Banjo-Tooie enough; it's fine, but
it's too much of the same to me.
Yeah, and then it never did anything else. And to have an iconic character like that off of one game is pretty crazy. It's a great game, great characters, deservedly so, but
I think you could say that about a lot of Rare characters. They weren't. Banjo-Kazooie was kind of like the only one that got a sequel, but they do a lot of really good one-off games that don't get sequels that have really strong character presence.
Yeah. What about you, Sam?
A lot of the ones we covered on just not representing their series well to a degree, but if I have to think stuff with the first installment really was the best, and it was I would say that the first Mega Man X is by far the best, but X2 is still very good, X3 is still pretty good, X4 is okay, X5 is decent, X6 is... We're not going to talk about X6 or 7. But that is one, a very lesser extent. I think the first game was just nearly perfect, and the temptation to add and pad out, you see a lot of that in X3. There's so much more stuff to find, but it's there's almost no point to finding it. But I think X2 is very close to it, so I don't know if that counts. I can't comment at length to this one, but since it is a game we've been talking about, Chrono Trigger had a sequel that seems to be very divisive amongst its fans, Chrono Cross. Now, some people love Chrono Cross. I haven't played it, so I don't know which camp I fall in.
It's definitely a split.
Yeah, it split the fan base.
And Solo something said Rygar, who I'm not familiar with Rygar, but everybody in the Discord seemed to think that was spot on.
So that probably tells you something about its quality.
And again, we're doing this because Dan's not here, because Dan probably he's a big Rygar guy. He'd probably be telling us, oh yeah, the sequel Can't believe you guys don't know it. Infinite Blue says not one game, but the Super Monkey Ball franchise fits the bill perfectly, which we already talked about. Super Monkey Ball, the first couple games were fantastic, and then they just kind of downhill slid from there. And that kind of just sounds like a Sega thing to me, because I mentioned Sonic.
Yeah, you threw Sonic a hand grenade in there.
Yeah, Sonic just struggles, I won't say that it doesn't fit the
but Sonic probably peaked at like 2
Sonic,
or 3, right?
Because yes, the Genesis Sonics were great, or not great. They were good. I don't know if I would call them great. But after that, Sonic just doesn't know what to do anymore. Like,
yeah,
I think they're just like, it's pretty bad whenever you name your team, your Sonic team is the developers of Sonic, and their game gets outsold by a fan that made his own game.
I think we're also just spoiled by Mario. I think that even the bad Mario games are still great video games.
Oh yeah.
And Sonic fans just haven't had that. I mean, 2, they really did figure out the formula, and then they lost it and couldn't find it again.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like 3, but not as much as 2. 2 is like the golden game. 2 fixed all the things that were wrong with 1. It wasn't near as clunky. When we went back and played the first game, I was really surprised at how clunky it was. Like, I don't remember it being that way when I originally played it as a kid. And going back to it, I was like, I couldn't finish it. I obviously played it the wrong way. I should have played with Rewind, but
kind of skirting the first installment only rules, but the Golden Sun DS game did not live up to the Game Boy Advance. And I almost consider those to just be 2 halves of one game, because it is like the first game ends on a cliffhanger.
Yep. Well, those games are kind of not split camps, but there's a lot of people that don't like Golden Sun for as many people as you think that do like it.
I have only ever heard good things about Golden Sun. It's not my favorite,
I used
but
to.
It's a decent RPG. You could do much worse.
But as I kind of broaden my, listening to other gamers, there's a lot of people that it's a very generic, kind of watered down experience.
I think that's fair. Like, if you play a lot of RPGs,
it's going to
be hard to place Golden Sun in your top 10, top 15. But
exactly.
To me, it falls in a similar place like Breath of Fire. Like, Breath of Fire is not the best Super Nintendo RPG, but it's not bad by any stretch.
Yeah, and Breath of Fire suffers because it was Capcom's only their first dipping their toes into RPG whenever everyone else was already setting up great RPGs. They were just getting into it to sell games, trying to cash in on some of that. And I hear that a lot of the later ones get a lot better.
Yeah, there's a big fan base that really got into it with like 3 and 4, which I've never played. Yep. I've only played the first 2.
Yeah, which they didn't come to Super Nintendo, so they lost. A lot of people.
I played the first time I played Breath of Fire was actually on the Game Boy Advance, but
which I think, I'm not even gonna touch on it because I can't remember exactly, but Breath of Fire 4 was PS2, wasn't it?
I think so. I know 3 was PS1. I don't remember if 4 was 1
I think
or 2.
Once they went over, they kind of did the opposite of Final Fantasy. When Final Fantasy jumped over to PlayStation and it exploded, I don't think that Breath of Fire didn't do near as well when it went over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just never been as big as Final Fantasy. But.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, I don't know. I think we have one more thing left to do. I think I'm going to pass it over to Liam and let him kind of talk a little bit about his show that we also have on our RetroLogic channel. And,
so Adam and I host a bi-weekly show called RetroGroove, where we talk a bunch about vinyl collecting, but anything classic music. It's interesting when you compare it to retro games, which when we're talking about stuff, we're talking about things from the 90s, right? 90s, even 2000s has been the majority of the things that we've discussed here tonight. But when we look at music, retro could be anything from the Beatles to Led Zeppelin to Nirvana. You've got decades and decades to span of all genres.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of jump around a bunch. So the show is great for people who are fairly genre agnostic. We can talk hip hop and pop and country and rock. So definitely, come on over, check us out. Everybody loves listening to music in some way, and we're not snobs about it just because some of us are grabbing vinyl. I still buy CDs, and I stream a bunch of my stuff. So, check us out, Retro Groove Podcast on any of your podcast services.
You guys just had a episode about the Tony Hawk soundtrack. Isn't
about
that right?
Tony Hawk, yeah. I mean, I don't know, were you guys Tony Hawk gamers at all back in the day?
Oh yeah, I still own 1 through 4.
I played the first 3 games.
3 was mine. Three was mine. I actually played the GBA games a bunch. We didn't touch on those because the soundtracks weren't there as much as they were on the console versions. But
I had Underground on GBA.
Yeah, they were good. They made those games really well. It felt good in your hands. And I think in some of them I remember playing as Spider-Man in one of them. It was pretty cool.
That was 2, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the soundtrack, I mean, it just exposed me to so much music that I still love, and that was so formative at that time.
The first game, man.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Yeah, it's so great. I love 3 was my game that I played the most. I played 1 and 2. I never had 1. I had 2, but I played 1 a bunch at a friend's house, and then I bought 3 for the GameCube. I didn't realize it also came out on Nintendo 64.
I was going to ask you which one you had.
Crazy.
It for when you said
I had it for GameCube, and I played that game. I wish there was a way to see how many hours I put into that, but it's a lot. It's way too much because it just felt good.
The thing that always amazed me about Tony Hawk was that, for one, the N64 had a dog poo sound chip.
Oh, yeah.
And the licensed music still, I would still just listen to it over and over again on that game. Mm-hmm. And,
I mean, the games only had... Yeah, the games... I mean, the PlayStation games had more because they had more space for it. But the games only ever had, maybe 20 songs total in some of those things. I think that when I looked at the list, I think it was 20 songs, 22 songs for the GameCube Tony Hawk 3. And I looked at them, and I could hum them. I could tell you lyrics from all of them, because you listen to them 50 times, and somehow they didn't get old. And then to find out that, Tony Hawk, that was still in the era where Tony Hawk himself was actually just giving his people bands and songs and saying, try to get here's 40 songs, see what you can get. And the 22 songs that wound up on there were the ones that they could actually get the licenses to. Afterwards, you start getting, the record companies realized, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is such a marketing opportunity. And it got muddy.
Trying to get on there, yeah.
Everybody wanted to, but it defined, Goldfinger became Goldfinger because Superman had been out for 2 or 3 years before that, and nobody cared. And then they put that on as the opening song on the first game, and it's just, all right, that everybody knows that song.
Yeah, and it just fits that game.
Oh, it does.
To me, there's 2 parts of that game, and the soundtrack is that big of a deal to it.
100%.
Without it, I don't think the games did as well. They wouldn't have done as well as they did. But putting the music with it was genius. It
was authentic. Yeah. Yep. So I'm excited. I have the remake. I haven't opened it up yet, but apparently they were able to track down a ton of the songs that were in those first 2 games, and then put in some other songs that supposedly fit the bill. So I'm interested to both experience the remake of the game, but also to kind of be immersed in that kind of subset of music again.
Yeah, I remember, in the original game going through the credits just so I could find out who was doing the music, because a lot of the songs I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because, Tony Hawk came out when I was, 14 or 15 years old, and, I listened to a wide variety of things, but nothing like that at the time.
Right.
So, yeah, I was like, I got to figure out what this is, and then, you didn't have, internet wasn't as pronounced as it is now to be able to
it was 2000.
Find everything. Yeah,
that was the Wild West. That was 2000. You were still LimeWire, maybe just Kazaa or Napster if you were doing naughty things, and stealing music. I remember looking up. So in Tony Hawk 3, you could go in and pick the songs you wanted to hear, and they had like a sound selector. But then I remember going on to Kazaa and downloading all of those songs because I wanted to listen to them outside of the Tony Hawk game too. Yep. And I definitely I put up a picture of it. I bought it. Sold albums. Like I bought music because I heard it on that soundtrack, and I would go out to the wall, my record stores or whatever back then, and buy CDs of that music.
Yeah, that's how I got into. Speaking of the third game, that's how I got into CKY, and but just exploded from there. Listened to all kinds of weird things, but
when the Margeras ruled the world.
Yes, we were talking about that in Discord. Johnny Knoxville
and Bam Margera.
All those things. Yes.
Yeah.
But awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Yes. Another super long show for us. When Dan's gone, we don't hold the reins as tight, and we just we talk about whatever we want.
Fire Emblem.
Yes. And you guys go listen to the RetroGroove podcast and check out. Sam does a lot of streaming, so make sure you go check him out. And thanks for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We're proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, at RetroLogic Games, and you're also welcome to jump in our friendly, 100% non-toxic Discord community. The link to that is in Dan's Twitter bio, and you can find everything on the website at RetroLogic Games. So, if you guys are curious and you want to find any of the podcasts or any things we're doing, go to the website. The game store's there, merchandise, new magnets, stickers, t-shirts, things of that nature. Go check it out. And also don't feel too shy and join our Discord. We love having new people to talk to and learning what you guys like to play, and just getting everybody involved, and come play some games with us. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast.